r/AskReddit. What is the most ducked up thing you have eavesdropped? I woke up around midnight on Easter when I was about 6 to hopefully get a glimpse of the Easter bunny, only to hear my mom crying to my dad on the phone, divorced, to come get my brother and I because she has no money to get us any chocolate. She was hysterical. I went back to bed and pretended to be surprised when my dad was there the morning to come get us. He told us that the Easter bunny got mixed up about what house we were going to be at. I feel so bad for your mom. That's horrible. Nice of him to do that though and not be a runt. Overheard my wife saying you look really handsome, babe. She was on a FaceTime call with the guy she was cheating on me with and didn't hear me come in early from work. Still the hardest thing I've ever heard. I listened in the hallway for a few minutes, then packed a bag and left. 10 years of marriage and we have a 2-year-old. It's pretty insane. Edit. Thanks for all the love. I moved out. Divorce is final in October. She moved in with him. Life's rough sometimes. It'll get better. Caught my now ex-wife at dinner with another man, holding hands. My children in the booth beside them. I'd been at work and got off early. Saw her car on the way home at Logan's. The dude nearly hit his pants when I walked up. He got up and tried to stammer something. I turned and looked at her and then our kids and told her she should be ducking ashamed. 10 years of marriage and 2 kids. It tears your guts out. Jesus Christ. It's one thing to cheat on your partner or spouse, but to openly have your kids around the person you're cheating with is all sorts of ducked up. I'm assuming your kids weren't old enough to realize what was happening. But if they were then that's just awful. Overhearing a girl I had a huge crush on in high school sophomore year talk to her friends about her boyfriend fisting her so hard she hit a little on his arm. The level of my crush on her deflated a bit after that. Edit. Spelling. Edit 2. Damn it. I did this on my throwaway and not my main. I had a coworker, female, who liked to give graphic detail of her ex-life to another coworker, gay man. He would then in turn come tell the rest of us who didn't overhear. Most of them were in cubicles that were sectioned off. So she told him a story about how she was just ducking her daddy, and in the course of now, his condom came off. She only told the story because that morning, when she took a hit, out came the condom that had been in her colon for a couple of days. Edit. Typed her condom instead of his condom. Fixed. Not all Jews are bad, but I can't really say I enjoy being around them. I was listening to 2 of my kindergarten students talk about Christmas the day before break. One asked, "Do you believe in Santa?" The other replied, "Yes. But he doesn't come to my house because I'm in foster care." When I was first put in foster care, there was a house in Sheboygan all the foster kids could go to on Christmas. The owners, who I think were foster parents when they were younger, had all the rooms stuffed with stuffed animals, teddy bears and such, and the husband would dress up as Santa, real beard and all. The foster children were allowed to roam the house and pick out 3 stuffed animals for them to keep. I got my very first stuffed animal when I was 6 and named him Christmas. I'm 30 now, and my 8-year-old son now has Christmas in his bed. I know it isn't much, but that little act really helped me feel like I was wanted. Holy hit, actual real life heroes. An old Jewish couple was arguing at the grocery store about whether or not they should buy X brand of cookies, even though Y brand was $0.50 cheaper. The man said if he had married Edith instead of his wife, Edith would have let him get the nicer brand of cookies. His wife replied she could have married Xavier and actually been wealthy and not living in a rat-infested apartment. WTF. I like to think Edith and Xavier ended up together after the assumed respective breakups with the other couple. They live in a nice, rat-free apartment and get the good cookies because they are wealthy. Hashtag Edith with the good cookies. Sitting behind 2 teenagers on the train. Guy, you let him come inside of you? Girl, well not all the way. I finally understand teen pregnancy. I had a friend say to me when we were 18, "Well, how much is X? Like 2, 3 inches? How deep does he have to be for it to be? Ick now. Actual X." Pretty sure I had a dumbfounded look for 5 minutes. while she talked about it. MFW, I can never have X according to her unrealistic standards. Not the most ducked up thing, but it gave me a chuckle while sitting in a mall bathroom. Brief summary of what I overheard to kids, late teens, saying in the men's room. Oh, trans like men being women and stuff. I thought you was talking about translucent people. Invisible man hit. Nor dude. Men becoming women. So like dressing like them? No. Actually becoming a man or woman. Chicks becoming dudes too? How does that happen? Not just wearing different clothes? The second kid then explains. In the vulgar / innocent way only a kid can. The process. What? They can do that hit, but they still can't hack the iPhone. I gotta agree with kid number 1 on that. Gotta appreciate youth figuring it out. I was at Disney in high school, and I heard a guy say to someone, "You're too gritty, but ain't good enough to eat, so put your shoes back on." I'm 35 and still have no idea what that meant. Your pussy is tight, but it's not good enough to eat. So get going. Stewardess. I speak jive. When the police showed up at my door to tell me that my upstairs neighbor was dead, I overheard the EMTs say we are going to have to double bag him. Then I heard my neighbor's double bagged body being dragged down the narrow staircase because a stretcher wouldn't fit. Thump, thump, thump. For what it's worth, the EMTs and police were also upset about having to do that. Honestly, based on my EMT friends, they are pretty desensitized to that hit. Police officers, yeah, they were probably a little ducked after that shift. EMT/paramedic, they crack jokes about that hit and it never really affects them. They are first responders to the most ducked up hit. Just the other day, my friend was joking about this guy who got in a car accident and was scalped. They thought he was dead. So my friend walks up and goes, "Holy hit." The victim, still alive and coherent, looks up and says, "Is it that bad?" My friend just kinda chuckles and says, "Will, you ever see those old westerns where the Indians scalp the cowboys? You look like one of the cowboys right now." Or something along those lines. They both had a good laugh, and he assured him he'd recover and they'd get him out of there. But those guys see some hit, lol. Edit. Seems a lot of people are focusing on the fact that I said they are desensitized to it. I understand that gallows humor is a coping mechanism and people are still affected by seeing blood, gore, and dead bodies. But honestly, if it is your job to be in those situations, you absolutely become desensitized to it compared to the general population. Just go find your local mortician or coroner. I was a waitress, and I just took an order from a table of students that were all 18 plus. One of them seemed pretty dim with the questions she was asking me, but nothing too stupid. One of her friends ordered duck gyoza. As I walked away, I heard her ask her friends what a duck was, and them start to explain. How the hell do you get to be over 18 and not know what a ducking duck is? This is like Aziz's story about 50 Cent not knowing what a giappa fruit was. Yo. Why isn't this purple? I was upstairs in the church organ loft looking through music on a quiet weekday. Downstairs I heard a conversation going on. So I peered over the loft railing and saw the pastor sitting in a pew, talking with a young female. She was telling him that she was strongly attracted to the church's deacon, a single guy, early 30s, and wanted to know if he would introduce them. I could tell that the pastor got flustered because he had eyes on the deacon to become a priest, not to date women. For her part, the girl told the priest that she wanted to save the deacon from a boring life of celibacy. "Pastor, I want to duck his brains out. Let him try this, and if he still wants to be a priest, you've got a really devoted man." Pastor was like, "Sorry, but I'm cock blocking for the Lord." I only had her, so I didn't have to go to work. My mother about my younger sister. Turns out that as I got old enough to need less supervision, my mother realized that she'd suddenly be expected to actually make financial contributions like a normal person. That clearly wasn't for her. So accidentally got pregnant again. Took me a long time to realize what I'd actually heard. Edit. Thank you all for the /r/ray said be narcissists. I will spend some time in there. Equally thank you for the support. I'm aware she is a scumbag and this is just one example of how We no longer speak, and a decade after making that decision I'm still glad of it. But is your mom a good mom? Sadly, no. She was physically and mentally abusive to both my younger sister and I. And generally not a good example of a human being. Honestly, details for which are not a story for this sub. The above was the moment I realized she wasn't in it for the family but for herself. My husband and I were at McDonald's. We took our son to the play place to try to let him burn off energy so we could finish grocery shopping. A mother was in there with her 3 kids. One by one she would make each one of them sit down and was interrogating them. Where did your dad sit at the spring concert? Who did he sit by? Did he sit by Mason's mom? Did he talk to any of the other moms? Was he laughing and smiling when he talked to Carter's mom? Did you guys come right home afterwards? She was writing it all down. Each child was not allowed to go play unless they answered her questions. WTF. Ugh, I hated when parents use the kids in a messy divorce. Not to mention that kids are not at all reliable witnesses. Ducking adults aren't reliable witnesses. As a young child, maybe 8, I overheard an older woman talking to a friend about uterine prolapse. I was terrified by the image. I was sitting on the toilet and it just fell out. I had to push it all back inside. Edit, even worse. No one actually said the word uterus or anything about it. And I didn't stick around to hear details. All I knew for years was that something fell out of her body and she pushed it back in. It haunted me. Edit, okay. So it could have been a null prolapse. 2. That's equally bad. Either way, I learned that day that something inside of you that shouldn't fall out can do that. And you need to push it back inside. Don't worry. I too, 20, am